We're reaching the tipping point. The first two parts trace Desire's thread, from individual rivalries to societal webs, holding the containment of violence in a fragile balance. Now in part 3, the balance comes apart. Apocalypse is not just destruction. The word itself means uncovering, revelation, removal of the veil. In Attack on Titan, this unveiling begins with the knowledge that ties one boy's hunt for his father's secret to a world crisis. In part 1, Eren's yearning for freedom was shaped by the dreams of others, such as Armin and the Servicor. In part 2, we saw how that same spark propagates, eventually woven into rituals and scapegoats to keep strife under control. These mechanisms are now breaking, and the webs that both trap and protect are unraveling. It's the same mechanism we've already seen, which Girard refers to as the scandalon, the stumbling block. It draws us in, promises to fulfill our desires, and then binds us even tighter in conflict. This trap now takes physical form in a single pivotal place Eren has been obsessed with since childhood, the basement beneath his wrecked home. It's a point of no return, where hidden truth erupts into inescapable carnage. From here the rumbling looms, violence stripped of all disguises. What starts with the turn of a key ends in a disaster no wall can contain. Let's step through that door and witness how a single epiphany serves as the catalyst for all that follows. The moment of truth is here. Eren was bequeathed the key by his father and has carried it since he was a boy. Since that day, it is the promise of truth and liberation which now stand behind a simple door. The lock turns, the door opens, and what's inside changes everything. Eren thought he'd find answers that would break the walls and save his people. Instead, he finds a world beyond, teeming with life. When I learned that humanity lived beyond the walls, I was so disappointed, he will come to confess. A discovery which weighs him down, moving the limits of his freedom from the walls to the entire earth. Eren uncovers a letter and a photograph, a secret past which shifts the last stand battle in a particular area to a global conflict with no quarters. Instead of freedom, the truth drives him down a path of uncontrollable violence, the doorway to apocalypse which discloses what civilization has desperately tried to conceal. The basement was supposed to be the end, but it's actually the beginning of the end. A fuse is lit in the basement and institutions are unable to control it. The Rice monarchy implodes first. Their peace was based on a terrible deception. Historia's rejection of her father's will breaks it, but offers no stable alternative. The military coup that overthrows the monarchy initially appears as a positive change, but generates a power vacuum. Despite Historia ascending to the throne, it's clear to all that real power shifted to military leaders, who however lack the symbolic and mystical authority of royal blood. Without the founding Titan's memory alteration, the government loses its monopoly on information, and when citizens learn about the outside world, containment and manipulation become harder. The distinct military branches, each with a specific role, begin to blur. The wall cult's credibility diminishes, resulting in a spiritual void no authority can fill. Following numerous betrayals and failures, the Noble's corruption and Zeke's massacres, trust in institutions has eroded dramatically. Individuals are increasingly drawn to charismatic leaders rather than established organizations. Then comes the shattering of identity, the revelation that the people within the walls are in humanity's last survivors, but a persecuted group breaks the foundation of Parisian society. This rediscovered history is the final drop that leads to Girard's crisis of differentiation, when the categories that organize societies dissolve. Are they humanity's remnants or its enemy, saviors or devils? The Servicor, which defined itself against brutal mindless titans, now faces human enemies who are fundamentally different from themselves. Eren and Reiner's identity fracture, their double bind, is a crisis that sweeps across an entire civilization. Decisive is Paradis' refusal to be used as a scapegoat. The entire sacrificial process risks collapse if the intended victim rejects his position on moral grounds. Eldians refuse to take punishment after discovering they are held responsible for the world's ills. The military splits, some siding with Eren's growing Yeagerist faction, while others stick to institutional leadership. The formerly cohesive corps splits into different allegiances that are increasingly at odds with each other. Meanwhile, Marley's pursuit of power accelerates the breakdown. Each stage of the arms race with other countries exacerbates the antagonism. Their desperate search for the founding Titan hastens the catastrophe they dreaded, and the Tiber family's exploitation of the scapegoat mechanism will ultimately prove to be their downfall. In response, the international apparatus will escalate the conflict to full-scale war. This is a systemic unraveling. When institutions can no longer channel violence through sanctioned routes, it overflows all barriers. Truth and freedom, the very things sought after, bring down entire systems. The shadow of the wall titans looms. Violence formerly restrained within sacred structures is now poised to emerge unbound. A forgotten history was unearthed in the Shingekinokyojin basement, but now another underground chamber hosts a critical reckoning. Another suspended moment bridges personal confrontation to public violence. Eren and Reiner face to face in a tense quiet before the storm. A deceptive calm after years of silence between them, just as between Eldians and Marlians. A stillness that's about to break. Eren speaks, "I am the same as you." Simple words but heavy with meaning. After months undercover, he steps out, not just as himself but as Reiner's double. Whereas the first basement unveiled history through papers and secrets, this confrontation is visceral and intimate. Two former friends, now longtime enemies, confronting their common nature. The one you've admired and fought and blamed suddenly reflects you back. This is a liminal space, a fragile pause between a private moment and the mayhem to come. Above, Willie's dramatic historical performance is revealed to be a declaration of war. Below, Eren and Reiner sit in a tense fleeting truce, enemies seeing themselves in each other. Then the inevitable eruption. Eren thunders onto the stage, his choice ripping through every barrier that held the truth hidden. What they shared in that basement room doesn't heal, it explodes. These rivals recognize their sameness, but mutual understanding can dissolve the conflict. It must escalate. Eren has accepted the past and is now coming to terms with his doubles, here represented by Reiner and Marley, and chooses to push forward anyway. As the final veils of illusion are torn away, the machinery of containment groans and fractures beyond repair. Two grand architectures of deterrence have held chaos at bay until now. The Fritz Rice dynasty's walled sanctuary in Paradise, and the Tiber's carefully woven tapestry of deception in Marley. Yet these systems, engineered with cold precision, ultimately become the very conduits through which destruction flows. As they inevitably crack, more desperate measures emerge, like Zeke's final solution to end the Titan curse forever. Each represents humanity's attempt to devise the perfect deterrence, yet all accelerate toward the very catastrophe they were designed to prevent. We saw in part 2 how King Karl Fritz established his desperate wager in walling Paradise behind a perimeter of colossal titans and a solemn vow of assured destruction in case of attack. From opposite shores, the Tibers played their own role in the grand containment scheme they crafted together with Karl Fritz. A deterrence rooted in rhetoric, a masterfully orchestrated spectacle, a tragic irony that the Tibers would find their demise upon a theater stage. Both systems, which actually constitute a unitary strategy, reflect modern nuclear standoffs which Girard analyzes in his final work, Battling to the End. Peace preserved through the threat of mutually assured destruction. Their architects recognized the Girardian trap, yet believed they could manage it through perfect calculation. Fritz and Tibers masterfully executed Girard's scapegoating mechanism by channeling violence toward designated targets. Where they failed was in believing such a redirection could permanently contain violence. Fabricated histories make for poor foundations. The Rumbling shows that deterrence transforms and amplifies the very violence it attempts to regulate, as what starts as a safeguard inevitably becomes perceived as provocation. Technology intensifies this loop, as Marley's rival nations develop anti-Titan weaponry, from cannons to aerial bombardment. We see what Girard, borrowing from General von Clausewitz, called the escalation to extremes. Each innovation exacerbates disputes. The revelation of these systems' failure comes when Eren breaks through the stage in Liberio, physically shattering the boundary between control and chaos. What we witness is deterrence reaching its inevitable conclusion. The walls that promised protection are about to become instruments of destruction. Marley and Paradise systems fail and their truth overwhelms them because they are structurally averse to its existence. What appears as institutional collapse is actually systematic refusal. The walls, the historical revisionism, the manipulation of memory were not only barriers against external threats, but against reality itself. The first King's Peace required historical amnesia, while Marley's stability needed the constant threat of the Eldian monster. Neither system was designed to accommodate truth, but rather to eradicate it. They were built on sacred lies, myths, techniques that sustain scapegoating by obscuring their unfair oppression. When Eren tells Reiner, "I'm the same as you, beneath Liberio," he does more than express empathy. It dissolves the narrative that separates devil and warrior, exposing the shared humanity and monstrosity. These systems convulse against truth, rejecting reality like an organism rejects a foreign body. Willie Tyber's theatrical declaration of war reflects this, opting for spectacular myth over reconciliation. Institutions meant to preserve humanity actually strive to preserve themselves at the expense of humanity. Reality will no longer be suppressed, and systems that are unable to withstand the weight of truth will get crushed beneath it. The impending rumbling is the manifestation of this abrupt comeback. As institutions collapse, two brothers step into the void. Whereas Zeke chooses sterilization, Eren embraces the rumbling. Girard would identify these brothers as mimetic doubles despite their seeming opposition. Their difference is in form, not substance, as both rely on sacrifice and mimic the violence they seek to contrast. Zeke believes impeccable calculation can break the cycle, while Eren thinks apocalyptic cleansing will. Both are wrong, one through clinical distancing and one through emotional embrace. Where Fritz and the Tybers sought to maintain balance, Zeke proposes radical intervention, sterilize all Eldians to eradicate the Titan curse forever. No more need for the rumbling or the oppression of Eldians. Nonetheless, violence is still there, though it hides beneath a cold, calculated and clinical reason. Girard saw this modern shift of persecution which swaps God for grafts, but the cruelty stays the same. Marley frames Eldians as a problem to solve, not a people to save, and so they are studied. The Titan powers become data points, their lives fuel for experiments, sin becomes statistics. Ancient societies burn scapegoats at altars, while modern ones dissect them in labs and call it progress. Science promises control, religion promises purification, both mask the same persecution. Zeke's euthanasia plan exemplifies this scientific camouflage perfectly. His proposition is a logical and utilitarian solution: terminate the Eldian race to alleviate misery. He relies on biology. Life evolved to multiply, he will later explain to Armin. A cold materialist perspective that reduces existence to reproduction and survival. Through this lens, the Titan curse is akin to cancer, life on overdrive, devouring for no apparent reason other than to consume and expand. Zeke sees Eldians as a societal condition that requires drastic intervention, similar to how an oncologist would regard a tumor. There is no spirituality to account for, the solution is strictly medical, sterilization as demographic chemotherapy. By reducing human life to biological data points, he dehumanizes living, feeling beings, turning them into abstract problems to solve. Whereas an emotional connection would make the concept of methodically sterilizing an entire population repulsive, Zeke's scientific lens allows for a terrible calculus. Misery can be scientifically removed by removing the victims. He feels he is acting with compassion by averting future sorrow, yet this compassion necessitates the full erasure of a people's ability to exist. Ironically, Zeke reflects back to humanity at large the very treatment he resented from his father, the coldness and instrumentalization he experienced as a child. What Zeke never suspected was having his own technical vision hijacked by someone very close to him, his own brother, whom he believed was his ally. While outwardly collaborating toward euthanasia, Eren systematically prepares to sabotage it through methodical deception that reveals a darker form of mimesis. Eren's plan is more passionate, driven by the frantic desire to protect his friends and his people, but it's also more ruthlessly tactical than any other scheme we've seen. He carefully pretends to endorse Zeke's euthanasia plan while plotting to subvert it. His actions mirror Marley's infiltration of parodies, the Tybers' shadowy manipulation of world politics, and the Fritz Rice dynasty controlled through deception. Eren absorbs, refines and uses these tactics against their creators with lethal efficiency. Here we see a terrifying mimetic trap, where the scapegoated victim internalizes their oppressor's methods and adopts them with greater force. Each move against Eldians teaches Eren something which incorporates. The very powers designed to hold back parodies instruct the most devastating counterattack. Both brothers inherit their father's revolutionary spirit while becoming more extreme versions of him. Where Grisha sought emancipation for Eldians within existing systems, his sons strive to uproot those systems entirely. The ideological distinction between Zeke and Eren obscures their fundamental similarity. Each believes the world can only be redeemed through radical intervention that bypasses moral restraints. While the Yeager brothers devise their competing apocalypses, a small alien girl from Liberio pursues her own personal quest. Gabi Brown, who as we saw in part 1 is Eren's reflection, is now sneaking into Paradise Island just like some other young aliens from Marley did years ago. A movement that is not random, the pendulum continues to swing throughout history. Her journey traces a devastating symmetry. After killing Sasha in retribution for Liberio, Gabi finds herself taken in by the very family from which she took her, unknowingly repeating Reiner's infiltration years earlier, an enemy living among the ones they've wounded, receiving kindness from them. Isayama reveals the pattern with brutal clarity. Gabi enters Paradise after witnessing Liberio's devastation at Eren's hands, which followed his own calculated infiltration of Marley, which responded to the destruction of his hometown, which came from Reiner's and Bertholdt's breach of the walls, which stemmed from Marley's military doctrine, which echoed centuries of Eldian-Marleyan conflict. Each invasion mimics the previous one, repeating itself across generations as victim becomes perpetrator becomes victim again. What unfolds next represents the crucial divergence between Gabi, Reiner, and Eren's parallel paths. Unlike Eren, who responds to revelation with escalation, and Reiner, who remains divided in two, Gabi undergoes genuine conversion, a process Girard defines as the conscious break from mimetic patterns, when she realizes the island devils are simply people watching Kaya's grief and experiencing the Browse family's mercy despite their daughter's death at their hands. Her mimetic programming begins to crumble. This conversion culminates in her declaration, "There are no devils on this island, just people." It's a statement that directly contradicts her earlier zealotry. It's the recognition of the other's humanity, the foundation for escaping scapegoating cycles. Gabi succeeds in removing her armbands and stepping outside Marley's victim-oppressor narrative. Yet tragedy arrives on Gabi, having broken free from the blame cycle, becomes the unwitting catalyst of the rumbling. Seeking a culprit as sacrifice to achieve peace, she reverts to the logic of the scapegoat. Instead of avoiding disaster, her shot decapitates Eren, enabling the very catastrophe to commence. Her intervention completes the process that the brothers began, allowing Zeke to catch Eren's severed head, thereby establishing the contact required for the founding Titan's power. This moment embodies Girard's insight that violence once set in motion follows its own logic beyond the individual intention. The same skill that made Gabi the perfect candidate now serves as spark for the apocalypse. Despite her personal escape from Marley's mimetic cycle, she cannot prevent the larger machine from advancing. A haunting recognition that individual conversion, while necessary, may not be sufficient to halt violence once its mechanisms are engaged. That single shot, delivered by a child soldier, becomes the culmination of centuries of Eldian-Marleyan retribution, the final step in a chain forged by generations of victims turned perpetrators, part of an ancient system that refuses to stop its machinations. And so is the great chain of being, hammered by cycles of violence on the anvil of history. Before the rumbling may begin, an important shift must occur, the awakening of desire in the most unexpected place. So far in the story, Ymir Fritz appeared as an automaton, eyes devoid of expression, mechanical movements, a passionless being. For 2 millennia she created titans grain by grain, her will completely subdued to Fritz's, even beyond death. When Eren reaches her in the past dimension, he becomes her first true model, showing her a craving she had never known, the desire for agency itself. When the decisive moment arrives, Ymir makes a choice which alters the course of history and follows Eren instead of Zeke. Despite Zeke's royal blood, Eren offers what she truly seeks, recognition of her humanity and pain. You're not a slave, you're not a god, you're just a person. You're free to choose. This scene reveals that we seek acceptance above possession of objects or status or power. Ymir chooses the one who sees her personhood over the one who just demands her release, demonstrating how, even after millennia of subjugation, the desire to be sincerely acknowledged is greater than just the longing for suffering to end. Yet this model remains incomplete. Eren shows Ymir only how to break chains, not how to live beyond them. His freedom is still bound towards destruction, a road of retribution rather than renewal. This incompleteness unleashes violence without transcending it. Ymir's first taste of desire will require a second model to finally complete her liberation. But for now, her awakened desire flows directly into apocalyptic violence. Ymir's eyes are clear now. The rumbling is here, violence stripped of all disguises, marching to squash both those who embrace and those who reject its cycle. All will be leveled. The Rumbling. It's more than just an event, it's a revelation in motion. A violence so immense it swallows everything. In Attack on Titan, the rumbling marks the breaking point of what happens when the systems that hold chaos in check are undone. What was ritualized via carefully regulated expeditions and hallowed walls bursts beyond its confines. It's carnage that floods the world. The Wall Titans embody what Girard defined, things hidden since the foundation of the world. Violence concealed beneath protective structures. These colossal figures weren't just defensive weapons, they were the literal foundation upon which Paradise was built. The terrible truth buried beneath sacred lies. Their march represents the ultimate unveiling, when violence can no longer be disguised through ritual or idols. From the oldest myths to modern fiction, patterns of suppressed violence repeat. In ancient Greece, Euripides captured in the Bacchae how rational order collapses when repudiated Dionysian forces violently resurface. Attack on Titan realizes this on a global scale, timeless motives recurring time and time again throughout human history. Biblical prophets envisioned apocalyptic chaos with striking clarity. Isaiah speaks of the rumbling of nations who rush on like the rumbling of mighty waters, a force that sweeps away civilization. Joel envisions a devastating army that, as with the rumbling of chariots, they leap on the tops of the mountains like the crackling of a flame of fire devouring the stubble. ReneGirard, in The Scapegoat, cites Isaiah's rumbling of nations to describe collective violence. Remarkably, the original Japanese term for the rumbling, jinarashi, and Isaiah's term, nari todoroku, contain the same phonetic element, nari naru, creating an oral and conceptual bridge between ancient prophecy and modern apocalypse. These ancient texts could serve as storyboards for the rumbling sequences. The Wall Titans embody Isaiah's unstoppable waters and the fiery army of Joel, forces that societies have desperately tried to contain. This is a global witnessing. The whole world sees the collapse of the illusions that kept violence veiled. From Paradise to Marley, every eye turns toward the east, dreading the long march breaching the horizon. What began as a single eruption in Shiganshina now echoes in all countries. The pattern practically evolved. Eren, once the observer of a doom towering beyond the walls, now becomes the observed, a figure that makes all nations tremble. Eren sacrifices the world to save his friends, calling it freedom, but the freedom he chases becomes his prison. The power he seeks to break chains only tightens them around him. Eren's imprisonment has three distinct dimensions. First, he becomes the very thing he opposes, a scapegoat who mirrors his persecutors. Second, the physical confinement of his Titan form exposes his self-professed liberty as a farce. Finally, his attempt to end one cycle of violence results only in a short-term truce, as another cycle will start soon after the havoc he unleashes. Here we'll examine how the first two play out, saving the third for the last part of our analysis. The tragedy of Eren's path is his replication of the system that hurt him. Girard asserted scapegoaters are blind to their own operations. The same sacrificial logic that oppressed him and his people backed his righteous retribution. So the scapegoat becomes scapegoater, and Eren becomes the ultimate persecutor after being tormented. Throughout history, the oppressed often repeat the methods they once suffered under when they attain power, and Eren's narrative brutally depicts this metamorphosis from terrified child to apocalyptic destroyer. His vow, "I'll kill them all, I'll wipe every one of them off the face of this earth," reflects the same genocidal rhetoric hurled at Eldians. Eren is carrying out the same inversion that Marley pioneered. The victim who, convinced of his own integrity, becomes the Carnifex. Marley labeled Eldians devils to justify their subjugation, and Eren now sees the outside world as an existential menace that must be eliminated. Yet, as he himself wondered, so if we kill the enemy, the one waiting for us on the other side of the sea, will we finally be free? Eren's example demonstrates a profound complexity. His rage was what set him on this path, but not what kept him there. Unlike other scapegoaters, he actually sees the humanity of those he targets. "I am the same as you," he tells Reiner in the fatal cellar. He desperately begs forgiveness to the migrant boy in Liberia. His heartbreaking conclusion that Marley, Paradise, and all populations are fundamentally similar comes too late to halt the violence. The cycle demands sacrifices, and the point of no return has long since passed. Eren sees through the pretense of moral difference, yet continues regardless. Trapped in a determinism he surrenders to. His violence is not motivated by mindless anger, but by an intentional sacrifice made with full awareness of the moral horror. Eren declares, "I am free." The founding titan, his ultimate power, should demonstrate it, but it doesn't. It's a jarring contradiction, a force of limitless might wielded by a man with no bounds. It's the illusion of autonomy. Eren commands a titan that could reshape the world, yet he is not its master, he is its tool. Even as the rumbling rolls on, he clings to the pretense of freedom. Power actually pins him down instead of elevating him. Rousseau's Unchained Man revealed as more thoroughly bound than ever. With the attack titan power, he manipulated people to set the trajectory of history so that this event would manifest. But what Eren bound others to is not his own free will, but a constriction beyond any individual's choice. His new form conveys this inescapable determinism by incarnating the parasite's architecture. The enormous spine-like structure looming behind his titan torso, ribs splayed like bars of an immense cage, and bony ligaments holding him suspended like puppet strings as he proclaims his freedom. And so he and the rumbling march onward, propelled by forces he cannot control. His memories flow through time, reach his past, his inheritor's future, a self dissolving into those he mirrors. Following his father's model and surpassing it, Eren becomes more Grisha than Grisha himself, but he even goes beyond that. Girard's framework typically assumes temporal progression. Models precede their imitators, yet Attack on Titan subverts this through its non-sequential time. Eren's power bends the past and traps him in a future he's foreseen. This time manipulation twists mimetic desire into most convoluted form. As Eren and Zeke witness fragments of their father's memories, a startling truth emerges. Eren didn't just inherit Grisha's desire, he implanted it. "You must," he screams across time, compelling his father to kill the Rice family when his resolve falters. The mimetic triangle collapses into a circle, desire twirls backwards through time, creating its own origin. The composition of this scene visualizes this collapse brilliantly. Eren stands behind his father, a shadow presence directing the path that will shape him. Eren's expression is intense, driven, in contrast with Grisha's hesitant one. The son doesn't just imitate, he intensifies, becoming more fully what the father merely glimpsed. This is an incredibly severe form of identity fragmentation. Eren's autonomy dissolved in a mimetic loop with no obvious beginning. As he splits across time, his will is simultaneously created by and creating his father's actions. Eren offers himself as the world's enemy, a willing victim declaring an unavoidable fate, the perfect scapegoat, the perfect Ouroboros. But as he himself said, "I'm just an ordinary idiot." Once a child who wished to escape the confines of this world, he is now the vessel for a will that is not his own, one from which he cannot break free. Wings caught in a storm. The rumbling is tearing the world apart, and its destiny is about to be decided. Yet even here, amid the fires and destruction, faint glimmers flicker, seeds of transcendence in the storm. In the midst of brutal chaos, a fragile hope takes root. Perhaps not redemption, but at least recognition. Jon and Reiner, once friends, once enemies, meet at the verge of this cliff. Jon's words cut sharp. "We've all become monsters." This declaration isn't just acknowledgement, but revelation. As we saw in part 2 when looking at the deeper significance of the Titan curse, the word monster itself derives from the Latin monstrum, meaning to show, to demonstrate or to warn. Titans have functioned as living monstra throughout the story, exhibiting what society desperately tried to hide. Now, in recognizing their shared monstrosity, these former enemies fulfill the etymology's deepest meaning. They expose the truth beneath their conflict. This opening rhymes with Eren and Reiner's own face-to-face, but here there is an actual chance for reconciliation, tragically thanks to Eren. This mutual recognition transforms enemies into witnesses. When Jon admits to Reiner that they've all crossed the same moral boundaries, it's the foundation for something new, the essential first step, seeing our own hands in the violence we condemn in others. The monster no longer functions as the other against which we define ourselves, but rather as the mirror that reveals our shared nature. This is what makes their alliance possible, not the denial of violence but its full acknowledgement. It's another paradox at the heart of Attack on Titan. The monster destroys, but also opens the path towards revelation. Within this desperate alliance, Falk emerges as a striking counterpoint to Eren. His very name connects to the same symbols that drove the Cervicore, the wings of freedom, and the bird of prey that stalks Eren. However, where Eren's pursuit of freedom leads to a prison-like Titan form, Falco's transformation offers another possibility. His jaw titan manifests with actual wings, embodying both freedom and the capacity to elevate others beyond violence. A winged freedom that Eren will ever only dream of. This sharp visual contrast represents fundamentally different relationships to mimetic desire. Falco doesn't act in aggression, he redirects his power toward protection and rescue, in the service of others instead of domination. In him, we see the best example of what we can call positive mimesis, where Eren's passion for freedom devours the world. Falco's devotion to Gabi helped her break free from hatred. He bends mimetic patterns towards healing. Still, the question lingers, is recognition enough? As the Alliance prepares to confront Eren, their shared understanding doesn't guarantee victory or long-lasting peace. Even moments of grace, fleeting glimpses beyond the spiral, might not break it entirely. The battle rages on, and with it the uncertainty of whether any acceptance, however profound, can overcome cycles so deeply rooted. At last we are now at the pinnacle of the fights, in what becomes known as the Battle of Heaven and Earth, an apocalyptic title reflecting a longing for transcendence Attack-on-Titan cannot fulfill. It's a struggle between what is, the earth beneath our feet, and what could be, the heaven in our hearts. In an open wide landscape, terrible forces clash with each other as desperation sweeps among thousands of innocents crammed together, awaiting slaughter. A baby child is passed from hand to hand in a desperate attempt to preserve the flicker of life in this devastatingly cruel world. Why can't the world be like the one from our dreams? People long for cosmic resolution between sacred and profane, good and evil. However, the battle delivers no clear answers. As former enemies band together to combat the ancient might of the founding Titan, it becomes evident that force alone will not stop the cycle. Armin's arguments fail to penetrate Eren's resolve, and the combined military strength barely slows the march of the colossal Titans. The apocalypse continues unabated, demonstrating the limits of both force and intellect in the face of a system that has been in place for millennia. What finally breaches the storm isn't strategy or power. Mikasa, who has loved Eren throughout their shared journey, makes the devastating choice to kill him, not out of hatred or rivalry, but out of a love willing to release rather than possess. Within the maw of Eren's Titan form, the harsh, chaotic battlefield reds fade to a gentler glow as she draws the blade. Only the two of them together in a dreamlike interlude, a moment of intimacy before tears fall and the sword cuts. The visual storytelling emphasizes not the violence of this moment, but its tenderness. Mikasa cradling Eren even as she ends his life, their closeness framed in soft light amid the turmoil of battle raging outside. Her whispered goodbye, "See you later, Eren," echoes back to the very beginning, creating a circle that both closes and opens. This act removes the linchpin and the entire system topples over. The curse that bound generations unravels in moments, not by the killing involved, but in the act of release in itself. This dissolution represents the breakdown of the very mechanism that has sustained violence and desire throughout the series. The significance of this moment cannot be overstated. One individual's choice, Mikasa's loving sacrifice, ripples outward with cosmic consequences. Beyond freeing the one she loves, she breaks a chain of possession that began with Ymir's devotion to King Fritz. The survivors now face a shattered world. With approximately 80% of humanity killed, those who survived must navigate the aftermath without most of the institutions and organizations that previously ordered their reality. The Titan curse is broken, but human nature remains, and with it the potential for new cycles of desire and violence. The air hangs heavy. Attack-on-Titan's story leaves a world unresolved. We're left wondering at the significance of these events. Ahead, in Part 4, an ambiguous tree looms, and beneath it the remains of a cycle. But could understanding these patterns change them, or are we bound to endlessly repeat them? Eren's end, Mikasa's choice, a young boy approaching the tree. Patterns within patterns within patterns. For the conclusion of this arc of our analysis, I would like to share a passage from Joseph de Maistre, which perfectly conveys the essence of our plight. In the whole vast dome of living nature there reigns an open violence, a kind of prescriptive fury which arms all creatures to their common doom. As soon as you leave the inanimate kingdom, you find a decree of violent death inscribed on the very frontiers of life. You feel it already in the vegetable kingdom, from the great catalpa to the humblest herb. How many plants die and how many are killed. But from the moment you enter the animal kingdom, this lies subtly in the most dreadful evidence. A force that once hidden and palpable is constantly engaged in uncovering the principle of life by violent means. It has in each species appointed a certain number of animals to devour the others. And who exterminates him who will exterminate all others? Himself. It is man who is charged with the slaughter of man. The whole earth, perpetually steeped in blood, is nothing but a vast altar upon which all that is living must be sacrificed without end, without measure, without pause, until the consummation of things, until evil is extinct, until the death of death.